What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability for UFC London. We have 15 fights to break down. Can't wait to see what's sticking out. We got Uncle Weezy in the building. What is up? You looking forward to a stat card in UFC London?
Yeah, man, 15 fights, so when we've got all the data and we have access to it like we do here at the MMA Engine, we can kind of let the data be the guide and not have to worry about so much about trusting our eyes. And in this case, 15 fights, a lot of work to do. But whenever there's that many fights, you're going to find some lines that stick out. I've already bet a couple of them, Brady. Perhaps we can find a couple more here together. But this is going to be a really fun fight to break down. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We got Bob in the chat. We got Daz. We got Rob. We got J-Bone. And look at this, Weezy. We got Johnny Parsons telling you to tread lightly, giving you a warning right there.
Get a haircut, hippie.
There we go. We got Luke in the chat as well. We got Kristen. What is up, everybody? Thank you for hanging out. If you guys can, please hit the like button. Let's try to get those likes up. Also, subscribe here to the MMA Engine as well. But 15 fights, not a ton of time to waste. We'll try to get this done in about an hour. We're going to kick it right off with the first fight of the card. We have Barez going against Filio. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 minus 240. The under 1.5 is plus 190. So they have the fight goes minus 130. The fight doesn't go plus 100. But apparently BetOnline pulled off those lines, so those lines aren't available right now. Not sure when they're going to get out props for this fight, but they have props out for every other fight besides this one. So curious to see where they open that back up at. But right now, the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 is getting smashed. The over 1.5 opened up at minus 170, is already minus 240. So I was kind of confused when they set this fight at 1.5, and then I watched tape on these two, and I see why. But it's a flyweight fight. I think the early over money made a lot of sense, but laying it over minus 240 here, not something I would really do. Both these guys are super violent. Barez has a ton of power. Filio has an incredible grappling game. I think we do get a violent fight here, but the 1.5 is kind of throwing me off a little bit, Weezy.
Yeah, it's strange to see that, especially because we don't know a whole ton about Filio or Barez at this point, because Barez we saw on Dana White's Contender Series about 5 fights ago for him. And then we're talking about Filio, who only got his fight against Mokaev not too long ago. So we've got a debut and we've got a Dana White Contender Series fight out of him. But really at this point, we don't really have any data, Brady. We've got one UFC fight for Filio. It went to decision against Mokaev. It probably wouldn't have went to decision against anybody else.
It finished.
Oh, that's right. It finished just in the third round. That's right. My bad. I forgot that, I all I can remember from that fight is Mokaev not tapping. Yeah. But then Filio definitely did tap to that neck crank at the end of the third round. But we've only got one fight. So the prop template isn't going to be a lot of help. But what we do see here is that when the fight goes open at minus 130, this and the over 1.5 were priced right in line with the divisional rates, right? Because we got a 56.5% price here on the fight goes and a 56.4% divisional goes to decision rate. So in my opinion, when you watch those last 5 fights by Barez, you've got to like the under 1.5 here at plus 190. 50% of these guys' regional scene fights did finish under 1.5 rounds. And if you look at Barez here on Tapology, Brady, those last 5 fights where he was in UWC here and in Naciones MMA, round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1. Now, he's beating cab drivers, Ricardo Hernandez, Paul Moreno, Francisco Benitez, and Carvalho here. But these are savage knockouts. And we know that Filio, when it gets to the ground, he's very dangerous. So if you made me bet this fight and the time props that we have currently available, I would go with that under 1.5 at the fat plus money number of plus 190, because I'm not laying minus 240, knowing how dangerous Barez is on the feet and knowing how dangerous Filio is with his submissions. No matter where this fight goes, Brady, one of these two guys is going to be very dangerous. But like you said, maybe we just kind of wait for the fight doesn't start round 3 or the under 2.5,
Yeah.
because that's probably where most other books open it. And because we're not seeing people rush towards the violence numbers here, we can kind of wait for more information. But I'm leaning violence here, obviously. And when they open the fight doesn't go at plus 100, I'm pretty sure that's the side of the line that got the line pulled. They probably got a lot of action on that fight doesn't go to decision, because you can see here on the regional scene, Filio 13 of 15 and Barres 15 of 21. So 28 of 36 of their combined fights have finished inside the distance. So I like the violence props here, but let's see where the rest of them open.
Yeah, I do want to shout out Propaholic for bringing the fight doesn't go plus 100 to my attention. This guy's on it, man. Like this guy, I don't know if he's refreshing the lines nonstop or what, but he is on it. So thank you for that. And he also mentioned to me that Filio has not been to decision, Wheezy, since 2014. That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, Filio's been around for a minute, dude. And he's got some losses on his resume where you're like, oh shit, he lost to that guy. You know, he's been around for a minute. And same thing with Barres. Both these guys are very experienced. So it's going to be a really fun fight to kick off the card.
Yep, for sure. I think violence, but like Wheezy said, I would wait for the 2.5, or the fight doesn't go to decision, which they should be they should be playable. Considering the 1.5 is getting smashed to the over, but we'll see. All right, Wheezy, let's move on to the next fight. We have Bruna Brazil going against Shauna Bannon. We have the over under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 275, the under 2.5 plus 215. The fight goes to decision minus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 195 there. And it looks like we have the second most juiced over on the entire card. Weezy, anything sticking out here on this one?
Nah, man, nothing's really sticking out, you know, because we watched the tape on these ladies, Brady, and Bannon is not quite really a finisher at this level. Even in her 2 Invicta fights and her 3 fights in another smaller promotion where she did her amateur fighting as well in the UK, that's where she's kind of cut her teeth, and she's not finishing that level of competition. So we're probably not going to see her finishing at the UFC level, especially in her debut. But the tricky thing here is that Bruna Brazil has been finishing all 3 of her professional losses, but they do come to some pretty solid fighters. If we look here, Brazil got hurt in the Del Boni fight, I think. Yeah, it was a knee injury. Her pro debut came back in 2014 against Ariane Carnelossi. She got knocked out there. And then Denise Gomes, who just knocked out Jauregui. So, you know, even though she's got 100% finish rate against, it's hard to know exactly how durable she is. So am I laying minus 275 on an over 2.5 when we have a debuting fighter? No. But am I counting on Bruna Brazil to finish Shauna Bannon in front of her home crowd in her debut? No. And I don't think Bannon's going to finish Brazil. So I think it probably does go over, but there's too much uncertainty due to it being Bannon's debut in the UFC as to how she's going to perform. Will there be nerves? Will there be an adrenaline dump? Too much missing information. So if I was to make a bet, Brady, I would probably just take the under because it's the plus money bet and it stings less when it loses. But staying away from this one, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clear stay away from me. Nothing really sticking out. We can move on to the next fight, which is Chris Duncan going against Yanal Ashmos. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 135. Under 2.5 is minus 165. The fight goes to decision plus 160. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 200. So a lot of people are liking violence here. These violence numbers are getting bet down a little bit. The under was sitting around like minus 147. So it's taking some money here. The problem I have with the under is just I think Chris Duncan is kind of changing up his style a little bit. Like you watch Chris Duncan earlier in his career, he's going out there and just standing and banging with no regards to his own safety. But we saw him like implement some wrestling in his last fight and didn't really engage, which is smart for Chris Duncan. He's training at American Top Team train with guys like Grant Dawson. My concern for this under is what if Chris Duncan goes out here and wrestles, which he should. He should absolutely wrestle. I mean, if they stand and bang, the under's going to hit. But if Chris Duncan wrestles, I could see this going over. So that's my only concern with that under there. I guess I do lean violence, but I'm not in love with the price tag. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Duncan, if you look down here in the bottom left of the sheet, 9 of his 10 regional scene fights did not go to decision. 5 of 6 for Ashmo. So these guys are finishers because it's not like they're losing, you know? So 87.5%. But now that, you know, Duncan is an American Top Team, you know, I remember one guy that's also on this card when he went over to American Top Team. His name is Mark Diakese. He used to be known as a knockout kickboxer. And then all of a sudden, he started mixing in the wrestling and doing it effectively and finding certain matchups, got like guys against Hadzovich, like Borshev, where he could really use that wrestling, keep his opponent on his back, and easily win minutes and cruise to victory. Chris Duncan's starting to figure out, you know, hey, young man, going out there and getting, you know, in these back and forth wars where you're taking big time damage to your head, it's not going to be good for your long-term health. You know who still has some brain cells left? Guys that wrestled. Guys that did not stand and bang and take massive shots from their opponents. Boring guys like John Fitch isn't going to be eating all of his meals out of a straw when he's 50 because the guy, you know, wasn't getting punched in the face on the feet a lot. So I think that Duncan should take that route. And in this particular fight, man, this guy Ashmos, he swings for the fences every punch that he throws. But I think Duncan's a little bit better everywhere. I like Duncan's wrestling a little bit better. I like his striking a little bit better. There's a little more diversity. There's a little more technical ability behind it. But I would bet the overs here. Look, we're getting between a 10 and 11% discount, but we don't have enough of a sample size. Once again, we just don't know. Yeah. These guys that Duncan's fighting on the regional scene save Dana White's Contender Series. These guys, and especially the ones that Ashmos was fighting. I don't know. I don't even know what promotion he was in for the early part of his career, but it didn't look good to tape. But he's definitely improving. He's young and he's getting a lot better. His wrestling's good too. Even though both of these guys are finishers, I would much rather go with that plus money. Why, Brady? Because we're missing information again. We've still got a lot to find out about what, you know, Yanal Ashmos is going to look like as a UFC fighter. He knocked out his opponent on the second strike that he landed. So, yeah, we got to find out. We're missing information. That means don't lay minus 200. Don't lay minus 165. Take those plus money numbers.
Yeah, I think I bet violence in the Duncan and Morales fight last time, and then Duncan just started wrestling, which is so smart. Like if I was betting on Duncan, I'd be very happy with that, but I bet the under, so I wasn't. So yeah, I do actually. I'm picking this fight to go over decision, Duncan decision, but there's a prop that kind of sticks out to me, Weezy. It's Ashmos. The finish only is sitting at plus 160, which I find interesting because Ashmos has never been finished, and Duncan has been finished in his only loss. And there has been a lot of fights where Duncan's been hurt. Like on the Contender Series, he got hurt bad early. So I think that plus 160 for Ashmos finish only is something I actually don't mind, especially after seeing this striking defense of Chris Duncan. But if I had to pick, I'll say Duncan by decision.
Yeah, this is a good fight, but it's one of those ones that I'm not running to the window for any of the props because I still feel like I need more information on Yanal Ashmos.
Yeah, there's not a ton. We learn nothing at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, but other than the fact that the dude's undefeated, and when you watch the tape from the first fight up until the most recent fight, you're just seeing big improvements from the kid.
Yeah, I think both guys are improving rapidly. Really good fight there.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have Ketlin Vieira going against Pani Kianzad. The most juiced over on the card, the over 2.5 minus 300, the under 2.5 plus 240. The fight goes to decision minus 275. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 215. I think we're all probably in agreement that this does go over. If there was a finish in this fight, it's probably a Vieira submission. Vieira finish only is minus 260. That makes sense. Yeah, I leaned over, but minus 300. What are you going to do?
Yeah, minus 300 for the over 2.5 is 5% overpriced when you compare it to the 70% benchmark for the division. But get this, Brady, 6 of 8 fights for Vieira, 7 of 8 fights for Pandy Kianzad have went over 2.5 rounds. That's a 16 fight sample size. So the prop template is very useful in situations like this. They're telling us 81% of these ladies' fights are going over 2.5 rounds. We're only paying 75% on the line. As juiced as that is, when we're looking for parlay pieces, as gamblers that want to be long-term winners, they got to be plus EV bets. And we very rarely can actually quantify when we're making the bet before the fight, whether it's plus EV or not. But this tool here, Brady, the prop template that we have here, can tell us, hey, this is a plus EV parlay piece when we have an 8-fight sample size for Vieira, an 8-fight sample size for Kianzad, an 81% combined over 2.5 rate. We're only paying 75% on the line. This is going to be something I'm probably going to want in the probability parlay this week, because we can see Vieira finish. She did get absolutely slept, but was it Aldana that did that to her?
I think so, yeah.
That was kind of wild to see, like, wow, she got one punch knocked out. So of course you have to worry about it. It's MMA. It could happen, but this is a plus EV parlay piece. And I really like both the fight the fight goes at minus 275 and the over 2.5 at minus 300. But the analytics like that fight goes just a little bit better at minus 275.
Yep. Don't disagree at all. I think it's a solid parlay piece for sure. And it's something we definitely put in the PP for this week. All right, let's move on to the next fight then. Interesting one here. We have Brian Barberena going against Makhmud Muradov. We have the over-under. So we have some books with 1.5 and 2.5. I'll give them both. So the over 1.5 is minus 295.
Whoa.
The under 1.5 is plus 235. So BetOnline decided to set it at 1.5, and it's just getting hammered. Minus 295 now for that over, which is wild. The 2.5 I see on some books, it's like minus 130 to the over, and then plus 110 to the under. And on BetOnline, they have the fight goes plus 100, and the fight doesn't go minus 130. So, the more I kind of think about this fight, the more I think Muradov is pretty live for a finish here. The Barberena, he's taken a ton of damage throughout his career. He's now 34 years old. He's coming up a weight class for, God knows why. And on top of that, we've seen him get hurt a lot more lately. Robbie Lawler hurt him. We saw Jason Witt, of all people, hurt him. And, coming up a weight class, feeling this power at middleweight, I feel like Muradov could potentially get him out there in any round. The problem is with this under where the fight doesn't go, I don't know if Barberena has a ton of finishing ability, especially up this weight class, because he doesn't have power in general at welterweight. So I think if I'm betting violence here, it's probably Muradov inside the distance, which is plus 140. Weezy, anything sticking out to you from a prop perspective?
Yeah, because I saw that under 1.5 get set there, and I was like, that's weird for a Barberena fight, because you could see right here, Barberena, 17 UFC fights, only 3 of them have went under 1.5 rounds. So, and for Muradov, it's only 1 of 5. So only 18%, of their combined fights had went under 1.5 rounds. So that made, where it opened, that made the over a parlay piece, because it was sitting even better than minus 200. But now we've got a completely different scenario here. Now they're hanging a plus 235 on a fight where, a guy like Muradov's very dangerous. And I know that most of his UFC finishes have come late in fights.
Yeah.
And obviously it's the same thing for Barberena. Nobody's really finishing Barberena in the first round, and he doesn't have one punch knockout power either. So as much as the data is telling us that we've got to bet these overs here, here's the thing. Barberena is coming up a weight class. This is a pretty quick turnaround for him, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Muradov, we haven't seen in almost a year, I think. And he's getting a guy coming up a weight class. And when you watch Muradov, he's a really slick striker, but he's not that slick. He's trying to take dudes' heads off. He's swinging for the fences. Why not plus 235? I mean, who's to say that Muradov can't finish this guy in under 1.5 rounds, especially now that we're seeing The line dipped down to about minus 250 for a minute yesterday, Brady. Now here we are at minus 330. It's pretty clear that Muradov's a big favorite here. Maybe he gets it done and we can get a plus 235. That's a fat number, man.
Yeah, it is. It's intriguing. I think I'm going to play the safe route and just take the inside the distance, though. I think plus 140, because to be honest, I could see a knockout early. I could see a knockout second round. I could see a knockout late. I'm not sure which round it comes, so I think I'm going to take the plus 140. But yeah, if you told me to bet the over or the under at 1.5 here, it's the under all day, plus 235.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially at this line, right? But you could see why people were absolutely bet the shit out of that over 1.5 and got it up to a 75% implied probability, because we're hanging an 82% implied probability on this one going over 1.5 rounds in a 22 fight sample size for Muradov and Barberena, and they're both sitting right around 80%. So yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely, a bet that makes sense, and it's not horribly overpriced. So for those of you who have that stylistic read and you're looking for parlay pieces, you could probably parlay some overs in this fight. I would maybe just wait for a fight starts round 3 or a fight starts round 2 that's not quite as juiced as this over one. This is kind of a ridiculous number.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. I mean, it probably hits, but I mean, it could very well lose. Like Muradov gets after it pretty quickly.
He does, and he throws that overhand like he's throwing a fastball. So who lands that on Barberena? And he's going to be able to maintain range much easier against a much smaller opponent in Barberena than what he's used to seeing in the middleweight weight class at the UFC level. This could be a walk in the park for Muradov. We have to see where Barberena is at this point in his career on a 2-fight losing streak. But I just got clipped last time Barberena fought. Gunnar Nelson got that submission at the end of round 1 with less than 10 seconds left. And I had bet the over 1.5 because of that 13 of 16 number for, 14 of 16 number for Barberena going into that fight. But Gunnar Nelson's got a really slick submission game. So that's why that one didn't go. But let's move on to the next one.
All right. Interesting one here. We have Jamal Pogues going against Michael Parkin. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 smashed to minus 214. The under 1.5 plus 174. The fight goes to decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 165. This is a fight where there's just so many like unknowns. Like this Parkin guy, I'm not sure what to make of him, because you watch tape on him, he looks very good. He seems very well-rounded, solid striking, lots of power, some wrestling, some grappling. I think he's a BJJ purple belt. And then you kind of look at the guy he's training with like very, very legit guys, Aspinall, Craig, all those guys. And the line movement is kind of interesting because this guy, he was sitting around like plus 180, plus 210 at one point, and all of a sudden he's plus 125, which kind of makes me think that somebody knows something. Somebody knows that this guy might be the real deal. The problem I have with this one though is I don't think Pogues is really finishing anybody at the UFC level. Doesn't have a ton of power. He's a light heavyweight fighting up at heavyweight for some reason. I think if there's a finish in this fight, it's probably the Parkin side. Parkin has never been the distance though in his career, and I think he's maybe seen the third round once. So Parkin doesn't typically go to decision here. Kind of a weird one from a prop perspective, Weezy.
Yeah, it is, because when you watch Pogues, he's a great minute winner. Because he's got real good boxing. He can stay behind the jab. He can throw that 1-2. When you watch him box, they're coming straight down the pipe. It's clear that he's got good fundamentals with his boxing, and he can wrestle as well. And he's proven that he can go to that over and over and over again. Jamal Pogues, a guy who fought most of his career at 205. So he's got a gas tank that he can push a pace. He can wrestle. And we've seen him fight much, much, much better competition than what we've seen from Mick Parkin. But we have to admit it, Brady. We don't know what the hell Mick Parkin's going to have for us on Saturday, because these guys that he's beaten prior to getting his UFC debut here against a guy like Pogues, who is well tested, who is well coached, who's got great boxing and who's got great wrestling. We know pretty much what we need to know about Jamal Pogues. What we don't know is, what Mick Parkin's going to look like against somebody with a pulse. And look, I mean, he's literally fought dudes with no pulse. You watch the cage that he's fighting in on the regional scene is smaller than my bedroom. You know, I mean, like you couldn't even fit my bed in there. So, I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with this guy in terms of, is he ready for this level? The guy that he fought on Dana White's Contender Series gassed out in 90 seconds. So, this is a huge stay away from me at this point. But, you know, maybe the under 1.5 at plus 174. It's pretty rare that you get a 6.5% discount when you compare the price of the line to the under 1.5 rate in the heavyweight division. You know, and especially Parkin fighting in front of his home crowd. He might just want to try to get this guy out of there early so that he doesn't have to worry about the adrenaline dump. But we're going to find out a lot more information about Mick Parkin on Saturday, and I might wait for that information before I start betting on this dude's fights.
Yeah, I mean, we know nothing, so the line movement doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I'm guessing people think pretty highly of this guy.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to when you're watching the tape, but you always have to look at it through that lens, Brady, of who are they fighting. And in this case, it's bums.
Yeah, it is. A play that did stick out to me was the finish only for Parkin, just due to the fact that I don't think Pogues is really finishing anybody, and Pogues has actually been finished in all three of his losses, 2 by sub and 1 by knockout, I believe. Let me double check that.
Yeah, one of them was against Easy Alex Polizzi in the 4th round of a great fight at 205. So, you know, one of them was like definitely a fight that would not have finished in 3 rounds.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's been finished 3 times, whereas Parkin, he's never been finished, and he has a 100% finish rate. So I think the finish only for Parkin's something I might bet, even though there's so much missing information, because Parkin's a finisher that has never been finished, and Pogues is not a finisher who's been finished all the time. So I kind of think
that at
minus 120.
Oh, I like that, dude.
Yeah,
because we do know Pogues is not a finisher.
Yeah, not at all. But
He's
I mean,
a great point fighter.
Yeah, he could finish this guy late if he gasses, but I don't know. So that minus 120 kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah. That's a good thing. I mean, it's not a bad idea to play that one for sure. I like that a lot.
A little bit of shot in the dark, but it makes some sense. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have an interesting one. We got Joel Alvarez going against Mark Diakase. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 150. The under 2.5 is minus 180. The fight goes plus 170. The fight doesn't go is minus 210. We got a clash of styles here. A guy in Mark Diakase who is not finishing anybody, especially at this point of his career. And then we have Joel Alvarez, who has a 100% finish rate, has only went to decision once in his entire career. So I guess it all comes down to who is going to get their way. If Diakase gets his way, it's going to be a decision. If Alvarez gets his way, it's probably some type of early finish. So I feel like if I'm taking the over, I'm probably taking Diakase by decision, which is plus 285, which is very interesting. And then Alvarez inside the distance, it's juice there. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
What is Alvarez inside the distance?
It's minus 125, but his money line's like minus 170.
Oh, yeah, I hate juiced inside the distance lines. I don't get anywhere near them. Well, look, I mean, this is a data-driven show, Brady. We've got a 19-fight sample size. And a lot of times, you know, this template tells us bet overs, and we don't listen. The one that I remember was the Kron Gracie Jordan fight, where we were like, there's no way this one is going the distance. But the prop template was telling us it's going the distance, nephew. This is another one, man. It's a Joel Alvarez fight. Joel Alvarez fights finish inside the distance unless he's fighting Demetrius Magulov. But here we go. You know, with Diakase, it's an opponent that might be able to take him down and stay safe from the submissions. And if he does that, he's not going to finish him on the ground because he's going to be so worried about being defensive in the guard of Alvarez. I might get to this over bet, Brady. I might still get to it. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I might still get to it because I do believe that Diakase brings a style that lends itself to overs. And we're going to find out what kind of fight IQ he has, but we know that Diakase trains with really good wrestlers over there at American Top Team. And we know that Joel Alvarez folds like a lawn chair anytime somebody tries to take him down. So I might be willing to say maybe this thing goes over, and I got the plus money number. We got a trifecta bet here at plus 170. 37% is the price of the line. You compare that to the divisional goes to decision rate at 49%. We're underpaying by 12.32%. 10 of 19 fights go to decision for these two guys. That's 52.6%. That's 15.6% better than the price of the line. And these guys go to decision at a higher rate than what the division does as a whole. So that's a trifecta bet. It's a plus money number. I don't like being in the habit of ignoring plus 170 trifecta bets when we have a 19 fight sample size, Brady.
Yep, I don't hate it. The only problem is, like, if I'm betting the over, I'm taking Diakese by decision, because if this does go over, it probably means that Alvarez was laying on his ass for 15 minutes. So that's kind of how I would attack it. But I'm kind of the other way, which is not a hot take. I mean, it's juice, but I think Alvarez probably does finish him. And a spot that I'm going to be looking out for is not out yet, but it's going to be the under 1.5. Alvarez has 22 fights. I think 20 of them have finished under 1.5 rounds. So if Alvarez is getting his way, I think it's probably an early night at the office. As always, he's a big favorite. He's expected to. So I'm hoping for some plus money on that under. If it goes over, Diakese probably wins the fight. So that's kind of how I'm attacking it. But this fight can go a couple of different ways. I guess it all comes down to the fight IQ of Diakese, the durability of Diakese. It's kind of a weird fight.
It really is. It's a clash of styles. You got the finisher in Alvarez, and you've got the minute winner decisionator in Diakese here. So somebody's going to get their way. But I like the plus money numbers here, Brady, and I might get to this bet.
There you go. I'm leaning the other way, but I get it, and it's a trifecta, which you can't ignore those.
We don't ignore trifecta bets on this show, Brady. We just don't ignore them. We might not bet them, but we certainly don't ignore them.
You can't. I'm just I don't know. I used to hate Joel Alvarez, but he's kind of grown on me. So I think he probably finishes Diakese. But if Diakese gets his way, that probably hits pretty easy. I don't know though, because if Diakese takes down Alvarez, it's gonna be like very sweaty. I don't know.
But don't forget one thing, Brady. Diakese stood with Rafael Fiziev for 3 rounds. So he's a good kickboxer. This might be the place where Mark says, you know what? I think I'm a better kickboxer than Joel. I'm gonna try to outpoint him from a distance. And if he does that, Alvarez doesn't shoot takedowns. Nope. So it might be a range kickboxing match for 3 rounds as well. That is a possibility. That is a possible outcome for this one, which is why that plus 170 is so intriguing.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I have no bets on this fight yet, but I'm going to wait and see where these props open up. Weird fight, but this next one is even weirder. We have Johnny Parsons going against Danny Roberts. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 plus 105. The under 2.5 is minus 135. The fight goes plus 135. The fight doesn't go is minus 165. I was looking at Parsons inside the distance, which is just a terrible ass price. It's only plus 140. But I was seeing Mills in the chat earlier. He was talking about how Parsons apparently is like dealing with a ton of concussions, a ton of injuries. Apparently he got knocked out before his Contender Series fight. So Mills is saying like this guy's like dealing with a lot of stuff. Apparently he like ballooned up in weight as well. So there's a lot of red flags from what I'm hearing on the Parsons side. And then Danny Roberts is just a walking red flag. So I think violence is the way to go. And I think it's a very playable price because Roberts gets finished by anything at this point. And if Parsons really is dealing with some stuff, maybe Roberts can get him out of there. Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
Well, Parsons is definitely dealing with some stuff because he pulled out of a Michael Gilmore fight. So, and we haven't seen him since the Contender Series. And I mean, I know I've got here. Let me get the layoff for him because it's important to talk about this kind of stuff when we're talking about time props, and especially Johnny Parsons 1 year and 8 month layoff. It'll be 1 year and 9 months by fight time, pretty much, because this spreadsheet was made almost 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, it's a long layoff, and Parsons definitely has to be dealing with some injuries here. So, and then like you said, Danny Roberts is a walking red flag. So. Yeah. I mean, this is not a fight that I want my money anywhere near. I actually think Johnny Parsons could knock this dude out. You know, I mean, it wouldn't be, but come on, plus 140
I know, right?
for a Johnny Parsons knockout prop in the UFC. This is not Icon FC. You know, this is not Tyler the Zombie Hill that's going to be standing in front of him. So, yeah, man, I'm staying away from this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably going to bet Parsons inside the distance or knockout prop until I heard that he's been dealing with some stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
gotcha.
I mean, when you have a haircut like that, it usually means you're dealing with some stuff in life.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So I think I might look at like an under or fight doesn't go. These guys get finished a ton. Like even Parsons, he's tough, but the guy's been finished in 2 out of 3 losses. And then Roberts is the complete opposite of tough. He's been finished 6 times. In the one fight he didn't get finished, he could have been finished like 20 times against Trinaldo. Trinaldo hurt him like 30 times in that fight. It was crazy.
Yeah, and Ramazan Ameev doesn't finish anyone, so
No.
it's not surprising that fight went to decision.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Davey Grant going against Daniel Marcos, over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 140. The under 2.5 is plus 110. The fight goes minus 120. The fight doesn't go is minus 110. I think if anything here, I'd have to lean with the over, just due to the durability of Davey Grant. This guy's as tough as they come. This guy, I don't think he's ever been knocked out. Like when Davey Grant is getting finished, it's typically by submission. And a lot of those submission losses were a very, very long time ago. So although I am very high on Marcos, I just can't really envision him knocking out Davey Grant. On the flip side, though, I could see Davey Grant knocking out Marcos. We don't know a ton about Marcos' durability. Could he be very durable? Yeah. Could he not be durable? Maybe. We don't know because his durability has really never been tested. And Davey Grant, he hits very, very, very hard. So like I said, I'm leaning with the over, but a prop that did stick out to me, I'm hoping it didn't move. It didn't. Davey Grant, the finish only is plus money, which is yeah, I know. Which I thought it would move on me, but it didn't. Davey Grant finish only plus money. I mean, I don't really see a world where like I said, I'm really high on him. I just don't see him knocking out Davey Grant. And Marcos is not a submission guy. I think Marcos might even have 0 submissions on his record. Yeah, 0 submissions.
Yeah,
on his record.
I was going to say, let's look.
Yeah.
So
finish only for Davey Grant, and the overs are kind of where I'm looking at for this one.
Yeah, that finish only prop is really interesting. I mean, Davey Grant's durability is unquestioned, but the thing is, the numbers tell you something different, Brady, because he gets submitted a lot, you know? So I think it's something where it's one of those things where sometimes the narrative gets in the way of what the numbers are telling us. And check out what the numbers are telling us here. Look at the fight doesn't go to decision, right? Minus 115. We're paying 53.5%. So we're overpaying by 4% here when we compare the 53.5% price of the line to the 49.4% benchmark for the division. Now, Davey Grant's fights have finished inside the distance 7 of 11 times. And for Marcos, it's 1 of 1. 2/3 of these guys' 12 UFC fights have finished inside the distance. That's 66%. We're getting a 13% break when we take that 66.67% number compared to the 53.5% number. And these guys are finishing at a 17.25% rate better than what the division finishes at 49.41%. So, man, I mean, that's kind of an underpriced violence prop. Davey Grant swings for the fences. And let's face it, dude, this guy Marcos, you know, he could knock out Davey Grant by landing one of those front kicks that, like, remember that meme of Tony Ferguson when Chandler touched his chin and knocked him out with that front kick? Mm-hmm. And his face looked like it looked like almost like a frog's face because it changed he got his face rearranged. And Marcos has got those nasty teeth kicks that come right up the middle. Man, he could catch him too, dude. This kid Marcos is good. So maybe minus 115 for the fight doesn't go to decision. It's not like a parlay piece or anything like that, but the data likes it a lot, Brady. And we know that Davey Grant always is swinging for the fences. So he's going to bring a war. It's one of those bets where if it doesn't cash, you're probably going to sit back at the end of the fight and go, God damn it, that thing should have cashed 5 times, like the Grant Vera fight. It's probably going to be one of those fights. I think it's the right side to be on. And I think it takes advantage a little bit of the narrative pushing this line the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because my eyes are telling me probably a decision here, but these guys are finishers, especially David Grant, 87% finish rate there for Marcos, 57%. David Grant has been finished 4 times, but that's where it kind of gets tricky. All by sub. Marcos, no subs. Bermudez was the last one to sub him. No shame in that. And then prior to that, it was like 2016. So I will be betting violence on this fight, Wheezy, but it will be the Grant finish only at plus money. Gonna take a shot on this guy's durability.
Yeah, and I mean he's proven that durability over and over and over again. The guy never ever quits.
Yeah, that Vera fight. Vera beat the living crap out of Grant in that second round. I remember he landed like a 5 elbow combination that just split him open, and Grant just smiled at him. It was wild. And then somehow just surviving out of those chokes, man. I mean, I lost a Vera inside the distance ticket that probably should have cashed, but Grant's tough.
Yeah, we both were screaming at the television during that fight, man.
Terrible.
And like Bisping is the one doing the commentary, and he's like, "Let me tell you something about David Grant. He loves to fight. He just wants to be in there." And I'm like, goddamn right he does. God, he's bleeding from everywhere, and he is still giving it 100%. So yeah, it's hard to bet against that durability, but he could absolutely get the finish though. Grant could absolutely finish this kid Marcos. This is a big step up in competition for Marcos. Like our guy Dan Levy said, is he going to pass the Davy Grant test? Because not a lot of prospects pass that test.
They really don't. Like David Grant, he knocked out Jonathan Martinez as a dog. I think he was a dog against Martin Day. And then he knocked out Luis Smolka. I thought he beat Adrian Yanez, and I had a bet on Yanez, and I thought David Grant beat him there. But yeah, David Grant at 37 still has a lot in the tank apparently. But yeah, this guy Marcos is really good. I think it's a great fight here.
Yeah, I think this guy Marcos might even be better than Giannis. I mean, to be honest with you, when I'm watching just what I've seen from the kid, because Giannis is definitely a lot better tested at this point. But we're gonna find out now, because this Marcos, he's taken the next step here against Davy Grant, flying, for all the way to London to get this fight. We're gonna find out a lot about Daniel Marcos in this spot, and we're gonna find out if he can take that next step.
Yes, we will. And this will be the toughest test for Marcos by a mile. Let's see if he can pass it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, we have Lerone Murphy going against Josh Kulabau. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 200. Under 2.5 plus 160. The fight goes minus 175. The fight doesn't go is plus 145. Not much sticking out here for me, Wheezy. Anything sticking out to you?
No, man, not really. I would rather bet the fight goes like, when you say, okay, it's Lerone Murphy against Kulabau, I'm thinking that this fight goes. And then you see, oh, yeah, minus 165, minus 200 for the over 2.5. And from what the data is telling us, Brady, this is priced. Like if somebody offered me a job and made me a risk manager, this is exactly where I would open this line, because I feel like I don't have a stylistic read that much on either fighter's finishing ability. But I also see that we've got, 6 of their 10 fights have went to decision. So we price fight goes at 62, over 2.5 at 66%. And the 40% of the fights that finish inside the distance, that 40% is right between the fight doesn't go number and the under 2.5 number. So my advice for this one, trust your stylistic read and go from there, because the data has this priced right where it should be.
Yep, and my stylistic read is it probably goes to decision there. But nothing really jumping out to me. We can move on to the next one, which these next couple ones are interesting. We have Jai Herbert going against Faraz Zion with the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 141. The under 2.5 plus 111, that just got hit during the show, I believe. Yeah, it did. And then the fight goes minus
plus 111?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Brady, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What is he over at now?
Minus 141.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And then the fight goes minus 125, and the fight doesn't go minus 105. Big pass for me. From like a numbers perspective, violence is really sticking out here. Like We see that, where is it there? Oh, yeah. So Zion, 69% finish rate, Herbert, 83%. And then these guys just get finished like it's their job. I mean, Zion finished 3 times, all by sub. And then Herbert finished 4 times, 3 by knockout, 1 by sub. Herbert's never lost a decision. So from a numbers perspective, it's violence. From my eyes perspective, I kind of lean Zion decision. But I was going to potentially take a shot on that fight. Doesn't go, to be honest, at plus 115, but it's gone now. So now I'm just passing. But Weezy, you beat a ton of line movement on this one, huh? Oh my gosh, yeah, you did. So I think you got the under at plus 165, right?
Under 2.5 at plus 165. Gave it out on the Patreon yesterday because it was one of those ones where the numbers didn't make a lot of sense. We were getting a much better price at plus 165, but Herbert's chinny. Ziam's been finishing all but 1 loss. So we do know that these guys get finished, and they're both good finishers. But here's the thing that made me bet that under is that we saw Fares Ziam, who's only 26 years old and who already came into his MMA career with a really, really high-level kickboxing pedigree. So the kid already had a base for MMA that was going to, he was going to be better than his opponents on the feet. Now it's all coming together like butt cheeks for this young man. He really looked fantastic against Figlak. He showed some takedowns. He showed some submission defense. He showed some great scrambling ability. He's training over in South Florida now at Kill Cliff FC. And I think that this young man is kind of growing into his body, and the power looks like it's starting to show. I think that this fight's going to finish inside the distance. I think Fares Ziam is going to knock this dude out in the first or second round. I bet violence. I got the under 2.5 at plus 165. I also have Fares Ziam's money line in a parlay at minus 135 with Mahmoud Muradov. And I'm going to be looking to play Fares Ziam by KO at plus 500 or better, Brady. And it might be a big bet.
Yep. I mean, this is one I'm personally happy with just passing on, but I wish you luck on your bet. I mean, you're going to beat the line by a million points here, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, I'm staying away. I don't know if Zion finishes Herbert. Herbert's super chinny, but I don't know. I kind of lean decision there, but I'm not running to the window for a decision prop there. So good luck, Weezy. I will have nothing on this fight, especially now. Like I was probably going to bet the fight doesn't go at plus 115, but it's gone.
Yeah. I'm not surprised those violence props are coming in. They put a big plus money number on them, but I think because it's the recency bias. Jai Herbert was somebody that people were betting the house for the fight to finish inside the distance against Ludovic Klein, against Kyle Nelson. I was one of them, getting served each time, and now they're thinking that the guy's a decisionator. No, every fight before those 2 fights, this guy's fights are finishing. So I took the shot. We'll see if it works out.
Yep, we shall see. But we will move on to the next fight. We have Paul Craig going against Andre Muniz. Now, if this moved on me, I'd be pretty upset because I have not pulled the trigger on it yet. But I'm kind of looking at the under here. The under right now, though, is plus 110. Sucks, but still plus money there. The over, minus 140. The fight goes plus 220. The fight doesn't go as minus 280. I mean, I think this should absolutely finish under 7.5 minutes. The only way it doesn't, though, is if Muniz goes out there and strikes with Paul Craig and doesn't take him down. Because if they go out there and strike, I mean, this could go 15 minutes, pretty easily. And I guess Muniz going out there and striking with Brendan Allen is kind of in the back of my head here. But why wouldn't he take down Paul Craig? I know Paul Craig's a very dangerous grappler, but I mean, there's levels to this. So I guess my concern is if they do go out there and strike. But I would like to see Muniz go for because if he goes for takedowns, he's going to get them so easy. I feel like Muniz can just run through Paul Craig here. So I'm gonna probably bet the under. But I did miss the line a little bit, but it's still plus money. It actually opened up a plus 160, believe it or not.
Wow, yeah, I missed the plus 160, but I got in on the under 1.5, a bet I gave out on my Patreon at plus 135. Because we even see here, right? The under 1.5 at plus 110 is overpriced compared to the benchmark by about 10%. So we got a 47% price of the line. We've got a 37.5% benchmark for the division going under 1.5 rounds. And this is a middleweight fight, Brady. So we're used to seeing Paul Craig at light heavyweight. So he's making a cut down. That is never good for somebody's durability, right? So I liked the under on this one. And guess what? It's still playable. 9 of 15 fights for Paul Craig finish under 1.5 rounds. That's a 60% rate for just Paul Craig. And don't forget, Paul Craig, very dangerous with his submissions in his own right, and he's cutting down to 185, a 20-pound weight cut that he didn't have to worry about in any of his other fights. So it's still playable here because this 57% combined 12 of 21 fights finishing under 1.5 rounds is much cheaper than the price they're hanging here at 47%. So even though I got a better price, it's still playable here at plus 110. And man, would have it been playable at plus 160 on the opener, but we didn't get to that one. Propaholic probably got on that one, because he's always there at those openers. And that's part of it, man, is getting those opening lines, having your work done in advance, and knowing when value is value when you see it.
Yep, 100%. I will be jumping on. I mean, it's a Paul Craig under at plus money. I mean, what more can you ask for? If Muniz decides to go out there and strike with them, so be it. I mean, it would just be so stupid. Like, I was shocked that he struck with Brendan Allen. I mean, probably couldn't have came out there with the worst game plan because Allen's actually a really good striker. So that just made no sense to me at all.
Yeah, and that's sometimes, the people who bet on Muniz that night, and I remember I had my finger on the trigger all week for Muniz, and I never pulled it, and it allowed me to be able to laugh at that last performance by Andre Muniz, which was terrible.
Yeah, it made no sense. So hopefully it goes back to his roots. I mean, the guy's a third-degree black belt, incredible grappler. I mean, he submitted Jacare in the first round. I mean, that tells you everything. That tells you everything you need to know. And then Craig got submitted by Jim Crute. So, yep, give me Muniz to get it done, hopefully early. So, and that Muniz line, by the way, is getting just wrecked. He was like minus 165 earlier in the week. Now he's minus 243.
Yeah, it's getting wrecked for a very good reason.
Yep. It should be a walk in the park for him, to be honest. And I don't really see Paul Craig submitting Muniz from Gar. I mean, that would be a sight to see.
Absolutely. Can you imagine? That would be like when Vieira got submitted by Fluffy Hernandez.
It would. Even though Craig's an incredible grappler, I mean, it would just that'd be a surprising outcome to me.
Absolutely, because Hernandez is a very good grappler in his own right, but there's levels to this, and like Rodolfo Vieira up here, Andre Muniz up here. These guys are top 1% of the 1% in terms of grappling skill.
Absolutely. All right, so 3 fights left. Weezy, we have Nathaniel Wood going against Andre Fili. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 240. The under 2.5 plus 190. Fight goes minus 210. Fight doesn't go is plus 170. Yeah, I lean towards this going over here. But I don't know if I really love the price tag. Weezy, anything sticking out to you on this one?
We got a trifecta bet here on the fight doesn't go to decision. Plus 170. That's a 37% price of the line. 43.5% of featherweight fights finish inside the distance. So that's a 6.5% break. Nathaniel Wood's fights have finished inside the distance 4 of 8 times. Andre Fili's fights 8 of 19 times. So we've got a 27 fight sample size. 44% of their combined 27 fights finishing inside the distance, Brady. That's 44. You compare that to 37, we're getting a 7.5% break there. And these guys are going to decision at 1% higher than what the featherweight division does as a whole. The featherweight division is something you got to be careful about betting fight doesn't go because it finishes at a much lower rate than the divisions around it. But because they're giving us this price, this plus 170, it's something that we don't necessarily want to ignore here. And what's also important, Fili's had a fight finish in the last 2.5 minutes, and so has Wood. So that rate for under 2.5 is 37%, but the rate for fight doesn't go 44%, but we only pay about 2.5% more compared for the plus 190 for the 2.5 to the 37% here. So we got 2.5% that we're paying up, but we're getting about 7.5% of finishing equity as each of these guys has finished a fight in the last 2.5 minutes of the third round. So fight doesn't go at plus 170. The data likes it. The stylistic read, Brady, unfortunately, is, I think it probably does go over. These guys are well matched. I think it's going to be a good fight. But it's just that we know that Andre Fili is much more tested and much more experienced at the highest level than Wood is. And most of Wood's high-level experience comes down in division at bantamweight.
Yep. I mean, I wasn't even considering violence, but maybe I'll need to reconsider. There we go. I think it's the second trifecta of the show.
That's two of them. Yeah. The first one was the fight goes to decision, also at plus 170 for Alvarez versus Diakese.
There we go. There we go. All right, let's move on. We have 2 fights left. I have a feeling this one's going to be extremely overpriced towards the violence. We have Molly McCann going against Julia Stoliarenko. We have the over 2.5 plus 110, the under 2.5 minus 140. The fight goes plus 140. The fight doesn't go minus 170. Yeah, I had violence circled for this one, but they're all over it and more. Wheezy, what do you like for this one?
So let's see Julia Stoliarenko on the scale at 126 pounds before we even talk about betting this fight, because we've seen her almost die on the scale, coming up short for 136-pound weigh-in. So, I mean, this is one of those ones where somebody from the commission is going to be like, why did we let Julia Stoliarenko cut to 125? We just had torture porn on the scale. It's going to be bad. So this is something I'm just kind of staying away from. But, and I mean, all right, with the weight cut too, can we count on the durability that we've traditionally seen from Stoliarenko? I don't think so. But if Stoliarenko shows up, hits that 126, looks good on the scale, maybe I'll take a shot at the overs here, because they're almost trifecta bets. 19.4% underpriced according to the benchmark. That's cheap. 14.5% underpriced according to the 56% fight goes to decision rate for the combined Stoliarenko and McCann. That's much better than the 41% price of the line. And in addition to that, only one fight has finished in the last 2.5 minutes here, so we're not paying that much to get the plus 140. Much more to get the plus 140 here. So I think it's actually a pretty good bet. But like I say, you can't really do anything with this fight until that it's going to happen, which it probably is not going to happen, unfortunately. I just don't know who made this decision to let Julia Stoliarenko cut down to 125 pounds. We'll find out. But if she looks good on the scales, I might take a look at the overs, but chances are I'm just going to be staying away from this fight, because where it's getting juiced, I tend to agree with that movement.
Yeah, same. I mean, I like violence, but it's way too overpriced for my liking, and there's way too much stuff going against the over. I mean, you got Molly McCann in London, the co-main event. She's going to be coked out of her head.
Yeah, man.
She's going to be looking for that spinning elbow, that spinning back fist, something spinning. Because remember, she landed against Goldie and Carolina. She probably tries to land it here, and Stoliarenko's going to let her, because Stoliarenko eats punches with her face. And then, of course, if Stoliarenko wins, it's probably an armbar from guard. So I think there's violence, but they're all over it and more. The under 1.5 was the under 2.5 was actually minus 105 for a little bit. Would have loved it there. Now it's minus 140. So, yeah, it's going to be a pass fight for me. And this fight probably doesn't even happen anyway. So we probably just wasted 5 minutes on it as well.
There you go.
All right.
Hopefully will happen. These guys don't have to cut any weight.
They do not. But we will move on to this main event. We got Tom Aspinall going against Marcin Tybura. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 plus 150, under 1.5 minus 180. The fight doesn't go at minus 1,000, which seems accurate to me. The fight goes plus 600. I'm kind of disappointed in myself. So the under 1.5 opened up at plus 115, which is ridiculous. But that was only there for 6 minutes. And then it went to minus 125. And that was there for a couple hours. Like, where was I? Where was I when this under was at minus 125? Then it went to minus 145, and now it's minus 180. I wish I would have looked into this fight sooner. I would have smashed the minus 125 or minus 145. Minus 180, it's getting a little up there for my liking, but Tom Aspinall, in every single one of his wins, they have came under 1.5 rounds. But whenever Tom Aspinall has lost a fight outside of the Blades fiasco, he's lost that fight. So I think it's pretty safe to say if Tom Aspinall wins this fight, it's probably early. So I think the under, I would probably look at the under, but missed the line and missed it by a ton. I'm not sure what maybe I was sleeping Monday, but missed the under by quite a bit. Weezy, what is sticking out to you at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with the line movement. You absolutely should be betting violence in any Tom Aspinall fight until he proves that that he cares about winning minutes, which he doesn't. Why would you have to care about winning minutes when your hands are that fast and powerful? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that this one finishes inside the distance. Are we getting any bets here? Are we laying minus 180 for an under 1.5 in this economy, Brady? The answer is no. Are we laying minus 1,000 for a fight doesn't go to decision
Yes.
in this economy? Not in this economy, Brady.
Fair enough.
I'm a former economist and trader, a graduate of the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University. We don't do it in this economy, my friend. It minus 1,000. I mean, if this was the late 90s, right? The Clinton years where everyone's throwing money around like nobody's business, maybe we're laying minus 1,000. And then maybe we go buy a steak, with the winnings. But in this economy, man, no. So, yeah, I mean, we just kind of got to stay away from this one. We'll look and see where the rest of the props open up. But the line movement is spot on here. They're juicing the violence, people betting violence as they should.
Yeah, and even like the Tom Aspinall prop, it didn't open up at anything good, and it still got smashed. Like I think it opened up at like plus 130, and now it's like barely plus money now.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. This is going to be interesting. We do have to remember Aspinall coming back from a serious knee injury, so we're going to find out, and a 1-year layoff. So we'll see what he's got. Hopefully he's healthy and back to his old self, because he'll be marching towards that title.
Yeah, someone told me that it wasn't a serious injury, but I mean it looked serious. So I'm not sure what happened.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, because somebody's like, it wasn't too serious of an injury, but I mean it looked really bad.
It looked really bad, and I mean, dude, it was a non-contact injury, Brady, and I mean those are always the worst. That means that your knee was already ready to go, and then bam, the last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back. And whenever you see like your running back in football go down in the backfield and nobody touched him, drop him. He's out for the year. And that was what happened to Aspinall. So we'll see what he, we'll find out in the interviews this week, like what the nature of the injury was and how much rehabilitation there was.
Yeah, because it couldn't have been like too bad, because he only took a year off, which I found interesting. Only about 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe he got, if he did have surgery, 6 months 6 to 8 months, then you get back in the gym, you take a fight and you have a full camp, and hopefully the knee holds up.
Yep. Hopefully it took the proper amount of time, because that's a little early for how bad it did look. At least watching it looked like awful, but
yeah.
All right, Weezy, we went through it. Whole ton of stuff sticking out. What are we thinking for a probability parlay here? We talked about the Ketlin Vieira over 2.5. I think is a pretty solid parlay piece.
Definitely.
And then maybe something to parlay that with, though.
Yeah. What looks good for a violence bet this week? I mean, like I wouldn't mind a the Craig fight. Craig Muniz fight doesn't go to decision has actually come in a little bit here at minus 280.
Interesting.
Right? Mm-hmm. And that's overpriced by 15.76%. But check it out. I mean, we got 13 of 15 Craig fights have finished inside the distance. 4 of 6 for Muniz. That's an 81% clip. So that could be a good parlay piece, because it's a plus EV parlay piece here.
Yep. What was the Vieira over 2.5? Was that minus 300?
We could go fight goes to decision at minus 275, because it's a better price.
Even better. All right, so those two parlayed together. So those two parlayed together are minus around like minus 120. Yeah, minus 120 around there.
Minus 120.
Wait, minus 118.
Now, if we throw that minus 1,000, fight goes to the doesn't. I'm kidding. I kid, folks. Let's see here.
I mean, if
What
you
what
put
else?
that minus 1,000 there, it does go to plus money, plus 103 for those three.
Oh, let's do that because then we got a plus money parlay, and we can we might even get it a bed on parlayable sites a little bit better than that actually. But that gets us to plus money, and the great thing about that is Brady is that we've given out fight goes to decision for Alvarez Diakese at plus 170. Philly Wood fight doesn't go to decision at plus 170. Grant Marcos fight doesn't go to decision at minus 115. Those are some good spots, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff sticking out this week. Dixon says, "What 3.5 spreads you looking for?" I looked through all of them today, and nothing really stuck out to me. Anything catch your eye for a plus 3.5? They're missing a lot of them too. They're missing a lot of plus 3.5 lines.
What's Grant?
I forget.
Yeah, because Grant's an underdog, so maybe him at plus 3.5 could be an interesting one because he's going to land some big shots. And like I say, I feel like he's got most of the finishing equity. So maybe Grant, it's going to be juiced, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I can take a peek. Maybe they don't even have it out because I think I probably would have remembered it. So Grant Marcos, there it is. They don't have it out. Yeah, they don't have it. They don't have it out.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like that would be one interesting one to look at, but I usually don't bet those point spreads because I hate judges.
Yeah, I'm actually 2-0 with the point spreads. I got lucky with the Jack Jenkins one, and then I bet the Max Griffin one against Michael Morales, which that one was close as well. So I kind of squeaked by cashing both of them. But hey, undefeated. Let's go.
There you go, man. Undefeated is good.
2-0. Heck yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'll have any this week, but that might change. All right, Weezy, we did it. Went through all 15 fights, hour 6 minutes. Pretty good there. Let the people know your plans for the rest of the week. I'm excited for some Just the Tip and seeing who's going to shave some ass.
Yeah, Just the Tip tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time. And then on Wednesday, we'll be doing the DFS show on Pub Sports Radio, myself, Brady, Monk, and Gordo. And I'll probably do Ask Wheezy on Wednesday night as well. Since I took last week off, it would be bad of me to be lazy this week. So yeah, and then also Brady, there's gonna be something coming down the pipe here. Let me show it to you guys. It's not ready yet, but I have been
sneak peek.
Yeah, a sneak peek of the analytics that I've been kind of getting together here. And if we zoom in on this, what I'm going to have is significant striking data by weight class, and all of the analytics there that come with that, the grappling metrics by weight class, the DFS scoring by weight class. So we can know the winning fighter in DraftKings scores 3.62 DraftKings points per minute and 90.62 points per fight. We have it for FanDuel. We have it for Prize Picks. We have it for Underdog. So we're going to be providing metrics for Prize Picks and Underdog plays for significant strikes, for takedowns, for fight time, like we do right now. We have a probability show which is based entirely around fight time. Now, probability going forward, once I create this new Prize Picks template, we won't just be talking about fight time. We will also be talking about significant strike totals, takedown totals, and fantasy score totals, because your boy has got every fantasy score that anybody has ever made since the year 2013 in any UFC fight. I've got it logged here in my database, and I've got it separated by weight class, and we can go women's 115, women's 125, and we can know how many fighters went over 55 and a half significant strikes. It happened 92 times in the women's flyweight division, and it happened 93 times where it went under that. So, we can have all these metrics. We can make probability into a show that doesn't just include time, but now we'll have the takedowns, the significant strikes, and the fantasy score as well, because your Uncle Weezy has 100% of the analytics. So we're going to be changing the show a little bit coming up, Brady, and making it the worst nightmare of websites like Prize Picks and Underdog, who don't know that their Uncle Weezy has all these analytics and he's willing to share them with other people who want to win. on these bets. So I'm really looking forward to
go.
creating this product, Brady, and then taking probability to the next level.
Heck yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I was telling you the other day, like you have all the stats besides the ass stats. We're still missing that, but you have everything else.
Yeah, and when I get all the ass stats, and I will get them, Brady, I
I know.
will get them. It's
I know.
this is your Uncle Weezy talking. I mean, you're talking ass. Your Uncle Weezy knows it, So I will get those stats, and then we're going to be doing a show called Talking Ass. I've already got the show notes here like it's right here in my notebook. Like you could see, my fingers are in the way, but you can see it right there. Talking Ass.
Yes.
And that's going to be the next show once we get the ass stats, but your Uncle Weezy's going to have to compile them. But you know what, Brady? It's a labor of love. So we do what we love to do.
Yeah, it was between talking ass or ass diggers, and we went with talking ass because we already have stat diggers. So
we didn't want it to get confused.
Yeah.
Two franchises, So yeah, we decided to go with with talking ass.
Talking ass. All right. I wonder if we made that a real show, if anybody would watch. Maybe a couple people.
Dude, maybe not the usual MMA crowd, but you make a show called Talking Ass. Folks are gonna tune in. I could promise you that.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, good stuff. Wheezy, can't wait for the new stuff, the new show. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna get my full card breakdown out tomorrow, going live Friday as always, and then Saturday for some best bet. Like on the way out, subscribe here to MMA Engine, and best of luck for UFC London 15 fight card. Should be a fun one. See you guys later.